All right, guys, welcome back to Boots Come in Pairs. Our 30th time doing this, which seems like a lot.
Woo!
A lot of content, a lot of hours we've put into this, a lot of thoughts and passions, and yeah, just fun to do this that many times. A quick shout out to our Timber Rattlers comp here. Getting featured on ESPN with the Udder Tuggers, which Nick kind of previewed us for. Also, seeing Nick this weekend was kind of fun at the Cub Brewer game, which was not so great. But just to have a single A team get national coverage on ESPN, again, for their creative alter ego, but just seeing that kind of mainstream that I'm sure Nick had a hand in with the Udder Tuggers. So very cool. And again, nice to see him at the game. Also fun to go with Jeff and Teresa and Chris Stilo to the game. Jeff was my first baseball game at Wrigley Field, so it's always fun to go back to a game with them and just enjoy the company. And they know a lot about baseball, but just kind of taking us back to that route. I remember the game. It was '05 versus the Astros. Sorry, that was Wandy Rodriguez, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he was pitching. I remember the Cubs had Jeremy Burnitz that year, and no names on the back of the jerseys, and Corey Patterson, and yuck. But it was fun to go to Wrigley for the first time, so it just kind of brought back those memories, and just to go
Mm-hmm.
to a game again with them, even though the result was abysmal.
Mm-hmm.
As we again get back into the Cubs and why we like baseball, they're making me question it and/or question my my team preference. But Ryan's got the numbers to break it down why the Cubs are not doing it. So what's going on? Why do we stink?
There are so many reasons. This gap between the Brewers continues to grow, and it's very easy to see why. The Brewers simply do the things that the Cubs do not. Right now, sitting at 7 games under, 11 games behind the Brewers. The gap probably won't be closing anytime soon because they're playing the Phillies this series coming up. Um, but yeah, kind of breaking it down a little bit. In the last, we kind of broke down a series record not that long ago. Expanding that out a little bit, in their last 15 series, they are 3-12. Not very good.
One of those
Not
was the White
scoring a lot of
Sox, so that doesn't count.
yeah,
Yeah.
not scoring a lot of runs. Not hitting at all. Not slugging at all. 5 guys in their lineup are hitting 230 or less, and 3 of those guys are hitting under 200. They are bottom 3 or 4 or 5 in the National League in runs scored, which is terrible. Bullpen has almost a 4.5 ERA. Not good. The starting pitching has not been the problem. They have 4 guys out of their 5 in their rotation have an ERA in the low threes. Justin Steele has been shoving out there. JMO has been shoving out there. Shota's kind of come back down to earth a little bit, but still pitching very well. Um, and yeah, they're desperately needing that fifth starter. But yeah, the bullpen has been so bad. Taking a deeper dive into these bullpen numbers in the close games, and that's the biggest frustrating thing, right? Is all the close games that they've not been winning, games that have been within reach, games where they just can't knock in the run when they have runners in scoring position and less than 2 outs. Can't come up with the big hit, but in there and them being where they're at right now, record wise, is a miracle considering all these games that they've lost that have been so close. They're in all the games regardless of how bad they've been playing. So the big stat here is they have played 57 games of their 80, 81 or 82 games that they've been in. 51 of the games have been decided by 3 runs or less, and they have 17 one-run losses this year. That is crazy. 17. I'll have to look into what it was last year. They were winning a lot of those close games last year, but having 17 one-run losses, no doubt they were probably ahead in some of those losses too, because we've seen a lot of blown saves. But yeah, that's the big thing to me that's sticking out, is just the close games that they have not been able to either close out or that they've blown. But 17 one-run losses is a lot for a half of baseball.
Right. And I would say the general sentiment is, even with any team, is you're probably going to win half those games, half those one-run games. That just means the Cubs are playing way too many one-run games. We kind of hit on it last time, is they're not having these big blowout wins where you can kind of just cruise. You're not winning 10-1. You're not winning 8-2. You're winning these really tight games, and you're losing these really tight games. And that's, I think, why it's more frustrating that they're not doing it, because you're so close. You're so close to getting to that finish line in a lot of these games, but it's either the hitting's not there, or the bullpen gives it up, or counsel will say anytime they blow a lead, oh, they're up 2-0 and they lose 4-2. Well, two's not going to get it done. Well, sometimes it needs to, but also you're right. Sometimes you need the offense to score 6, 8, 10, whatever it is, and it's just not happening. I mean, the game on Sunday, Nico leads off the game, second pitch with a home run. Your second hit and only hit of the game is later in that first inning. And then you do nothing for 8 innings, and it's like, I don't care what they put up a 7 spot in the 4th inning, even though they said all those runs are earned. They were not, because we could see with our own 2 eyes that they weren't earned. But like, that's the kind of stuff where it's like, what do you do with that? It doesn't matter how many runs they would have scored. They could have scored 3 runs. The game's over, right? If you don't have another hit the rest of the game. The defensive metrics are just, even if they're not calling them errors, you can see that they're mental errors, they're lapses. Christopher Morel with that rundown, it's like, did Nico run him too far? Or did Morel drop the ball? Or why was he coming off the base? Or why did we run the guy towards third? It's just, none of it made sense, right? Steele's yelling at the dugout. It doesn't matter, because the next day they come out and just do the same thing. So it's just, collectively, everyone is making an effort to put into this, and it's just maddening and frustrating.
And you just wonder what the feel is in the clubhouse. Like, I don't think, and they say, especially in the National League, you should never be in panic mode, because something's always there. There's got to be something there. It takes a little bit of a spark to get things going and go on a run. Yeah. But I'm having a hard time picturing where the spark is going to come from. I would have thought that Steele, and he dropped a couple expletives and rightly so. I mean, there were 3 plays in that inning that just didn't go their way because of just a lack of concentration, a lack of taking charge. That guy is out there shoving every single day. He's trying to win. He's a fierce competitor. He knows how it feels to be at the top of your game. Last year, he experienced a lot more success because the team was a lot more successful, but he's out there pitching the same way, and he expects his team to show up, and they're just not doing it for him. I was really hoping that would have lit the fire under their butts, but they came out flat the next day, and they looked terrible. They just looked they looked like they didn't even want to be in the ballpark.
Yeah, and so it's got to come from within, right? We know at this point, right now, the Cubs are not buyers, so they're not going to add to this roster. We also know there isn't really a prospect down in AAA that's going to come up and set the world on fire, right? So this has to come from within that locker room, and who's going to do what. And we've all been on, we've all played baseball at some level. You know how it works. Like, when guys aren't hitting, it kind of affects the whole lineup. When everyone's hitting, everyone's in a positive mode. I think there's just not a lot of confidence right now in what's going through that lineup that, hey, we're going to hold this lead. Hey, we're going to get this hit here. I think you have a couple guys where it's like, okay, like, even though, Nico's average is dropping a little bit, he still is making good contact. He's still putting the ball in play. I think finally the Cubs have kind of settled that leadoff spot, like 6 years too late. We're talking about, they haven't had a leadoff hitter since Dexter Fowler. Well, I think they finally have found a guy who can do the job, but now the rest of the lineup is a travesty. So, and then you're also looking at Cody Bellinger, who is having an okay year. He's hitting 260 plus, but then we're talking about how he's taking bad swings and doing whatever. But like, he's not having a bad year. He's just not being an MVP, and the Cubs need that player right now. They need, someone who's going to go out there and hit 60 homers and have 100-plus RBIs, and currently Cody Bellinger is not on that pace. But he's having a good year in terms of the overall averages in baseball. Like, he is above average. It's just not enough.
Yeah, I agree with that. The biggest thing, though, is that they just have no one in their lineup who strikes fear into any opposing pitcher at all. Yep. They need 3 or 4 guys to step up and be scary. And they have a few guys who are making the kind of money that would suggest that you would be scary in the box, but they're just not getting it done. Like, yeah, Bellinger's having an okay year, but they're not paying for him to be okay. They're paying for him to be a top guy. He's making $30 million a year. Dansby Swanson's making a lot of money, and he can't hit. Suzuki probably ended hotter than anybody last year. We thought he was finally figuring it out. He'll hit a homer every once in a while, but he's a liability in the outfield. He doesn't really have a whole lot of extra base hits. Ian Happ is Ian Happ. You have nothing at the catcher spot. Third base, Christopher Morel can be scary, but he doesn't make contact. So I don't know. There's just no one. If you don't have people who are going to strike fear into the opposing pitchers, then you need to grind. You need to be bunting. You need to be stealing bases. You need to be leaning into pitches and getting hit. You need to be taking walks. You need to be doing the kind of things that the Brewers do. Granted, the Brewers do have, like, Christian Yelich is scary right now. He's a really good player. And the thing about their organization is that they just have a bunch of guys who get the job done. They're not afraid to do the dirty things, to score the dirty runs and win the dirty game. The Cubs don't win dirty games. They're losing all the dirty games.
And we kind of knew that going into the year because they didn't do anything to address that, right? This is the same team they ran out there last year. And we knew they struggled with power. We knew they were kind of a death by 1,000 cuts kind of offense. Last year, I think they're probably stealing a few more bases. This year, they're making a lot of outs on the bases. It's kind of the opposite. And basically, this is the same team that they put on the field last year with a worse bullpen because bullpens are volatile. They don't, always perform how they're meant to, year in, year out. You have to kind of rotate those guys around. But you're right about the Brewers. It's watching them, it's like, yeah, that's the team I want them to be, right? Because they do have guys who hit for power. And then they have a ton of really, really fast guys. They're running all over you, fast on to first, stealing bases, just putting themselves in the right positions and taking advantage of every mistake you make. That's the kind of team you want to be. I don't hate the Brewers. Actually, they're kind of like turning me over. Again, anybody but the Cardinals, I'm there for it. I'm not gonna, vouch for them to win the World Series because I still think they're not built for that. But they're a scary team in terms of I wish the Cubs would do that, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And again, they're doing it with homegrown guys and guys that they've taken a chance on, and it's worked out for them. I mean, they're just a lot.
Corbin Burns. I mean, again, I'm always about prove it to me with these rookies. I know Joey Ortiz is off to a hot start, but that was your return for Corbin Burns, and he's contributing at the major league level. Again, is he long term? I don't know. Willie Adames was a scrap heap player from the Rays. Is he an elite shortstop? No. Is he a high average hitter? No. But yeah, he has very clutch hits, it seems like. And
he can field his position really well.
Yeah, he made an A+ play on Sunday to get Nico out. I mean, yeah, just they have the right guys in the right spot. You have Garrett Mitchell coming back today. Again, you have
that's cute. That is scary because I mean, Mitchell hasn't been able to stay healthy, but he is so talented. He's another burner. Bryce Terang is a homegrown guy, former first rounder, plays Gold Glove defense. He was probably one of the best defenders in the league last year to not win a Gold Glove. William Contreras is the guy they took a risk on because the Braves put their eggs in the other basket. They signed him as a free agent. They traded for Yelich, and Yelich looks to be back in MVP form. Those years that he was off, I attribute that to injury. So they're scary, man. They're scary.
Yeah, and again, Churrio's young, but you throw him down in that 7 or 8 slot, you don't need anything out of him. Whatever he gives you is a bonus, right?
He's immensely talented. You can see that by the way he just does everything. Like he runs plus runner, is a very good outfielder. He's got power as well. Yeah. So that's a former top 10 prospect who is also doing pretty decent in a rookie year. And if once he gets comfortable, that is going to be dangerous, man. Right. And Sal Frelick too is another guy, man. Yeah. I mean, so you have Mitchell,
guy, but
but he can start and he can bunt and he gets dirty. So you have Yelich, Mitchell, Churio, and Frelick. Like that's
Yeah.
that's speed, man.
And you have a DH, so you put Yelich in the DH
Yeah.
because you want to keep him healthy, right? It's just
Yeah.
these are good problems to have, and I think it also highlights though part of the Cubs' problem is, again, not that we need to draw everything back to them, but this is part of it. Their prospects are not performing. Miguel Amaya was supposed to be the next catching prospect. Well, Miguel Amaya has not been good, right? Where are all the? Where's Shaw? Where's is PCA is fast. He's a good defensive player. As Chris said, he's like, oh yeah, they said he could be, out of high school, he could have played center field. That's true. He just can't hit, right? So who's coming up and exploding? But also, we're just expecting the world out of these guys. Matt Mervis, like what happened to him? A lot of these pitching prospects have performed well, but a lot of them are in innings restrictions. Even Ben Brown, when he comes back, they're like, hey, he's throwing a max of like 120 innings this year. Mm-hmm. Well, that gets you to mid-September. We need guys in the end of October, right? So that's not a current year solution. And it's just, I think part of it is, we're not willing to part with any of these, farm system guys. Well, I think my philosophy kind of comes in here. If you're not doing it at the major league level, does it really count? Does it really matter? And for the Cubs right now, no, it doesn't, because it does you nothing to have these massive prospects come up and hit 108, Matt Mervis, sorry. But like that does nothing for you. They're prospects then, and now they're useless prospects because they're not major league talent. So unless they're turning into that, like you see it with Baltimore, just stacked at the major league level and the minor league level, and they're all under 25. It's incredible. Yep. That's not the Cubs roster. The Cubs roster at the major league level is like suspect, and then it's like, oh, but we have all these prospects. Well, unless they're playing for you, I don't know. What does that do for you, right?
The plus guys are in AA right now, so
yeah. And again, that
I don't know.
That wins you a AA championship with the Smokies. Great. Yep. I'm sorry, but like it just for the present day roster. I know it's when your team's bad, you look down to the minor leagues, but like you should be looking up, right? You should be like, what's here? What's now? Nothing's here. And it's just, are these guys even going to perform when they get here? That's the toughest part.
Remains to be seen. Yeah. We'll know when we know, or we won't know.
or they'll come up and it won't. Yeah, it's just you're putting too much pressure on that to work out. I don't know. I think that you're right. They kind of are in a position where Cody Bellinger costs too much money. You're going to see him walk, or they're going to trade him. I could see that too. I'd be okay with that. We're going to start, maybe dismantling this roster in a few weeks, because if you're not in contention, I don't really see the point in adding to this roster at this point. Yeah. Because
no one is safe. I mean, I've even been hearing like Nico's name in trades. They're linking him to Seattle. Jamison Tyon's having a great year, and he's got a lot of years of control left, so he's an intriguing piece too. So no one is safe on this roster. I don't think anyone is.
I would hate for that to happen. Nico Horner is probably your only complete player right now. That's worth that. Like he's 26, 27.
Yeah.
Not worth a lot of money. Hasn't signed a major contract. A team would want that. He can contribute.
Yeah. Seattle wants that.
Yeah, Seattle, and they need that. So it just
they do.
I would hate that because I think he's their only like complete player right now.
Yeah.
The average isn't quite there, but he's hitting the ball hard. And I just, I would have a hard time giving up a Gold Glove second baseman. But you got to do something. I don't know. I mean, again, he's young enough to control.
They've gotten themselves into this mess, and they're gonna have to get themselves out of it.
Yeah, I would rather see them go the route of these rentals, like Bellinger, Tyone. Again, by the time you're competing again, is he going to be good? Maybe not.
Yeah,
so you move on from that. Any of the pitchers, honestly, any of the pitchers, you can kind of move and be like, okay, they'll probably return the most because everything is about current pitching. That's what people want. They want current MLB pitching to ride them through October. Doesn't always work out. We saw that with, who did they trade like 3 times? Jason Hamill, right? Like, he's worth a bag of balls, but he returned you like 3 prospects. He was part of the Addison Russell thing. Keep doing that. Keep turning it over and see what comes of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But, again, I guess I'll be watching the Brewers for the duration of the season.
I mean, I was saying this to Dad the other day. I'm going to focus on what there's so much good baseball out there, and I'm going to start watching good baseball games. You have MLB Network, MLB TV. all the different streaming platforms. There's so many good games. I'm just going to choose to watch a good game and enjoy it for what it is. I mean, it's there's too much. There's not enough time, and there's too many good games to watch. So I'm going to focus on doing that.
Honestly, like after this weekend, it kind of like has you questioning, like, do I need to watch the Cubs the rest of the way, or do I start watching other stuff? And you're right. There's plenty of good baseball out there. You don't have to be, especially when you have the MLB Network. You can turn on other games on a nightly basis, and I can just check the box score at the end of the night to see that the Cubs lost again 6-4. Like I don't need to, subject myself to whatever the heck they're doing out there. So you are right. And one of those guys to watch right now is Aaron Judge.
Oh, yeah.
They showed a side-by-side of Bryce Harper's MVP season compared to where Aaron Judge is today. And I think Harper had 30-plus homers, 80-something RBIs or 90-something RBIs. Aaron Judge is at 31 homers and 82 RBIs before the All-Star break. He is going to smash that. You forget last year he was hurt and still kind of put up similar numbers and hitting 316, which Eric Burns was kind of going off about that he's in line for the Triple Crown right now. He goes, at 316, he goes, that's stupid. Like, there's only, like, 5 guys hitting 300. Another topic, anyways, because we were also getting on Jose Iglesias, how he's killing the ball and can't get a contract. But, yeah, what Aaron Judge is doing is very countercultural in terms of baseball, but he's also hitting the homers and having the production. Where are you at with Aaron Judge? Although the Yankees are sliding, it doesn't seem to matter how many homers he hits, but he's a must-watch at bat for sure.
Aaron Judge is great for the game, and I put my fandom of the rival aside in this argument. I'm growing in my baseball fandom and maturing, and I'm like I said, I want to watch good baseball. And I don't care if you're for a rival team and if I can't stand your team. Aaron Judge is must watch. He's an ambassador. He's a good baseball guy. It's great that he's healthy. And again, it's like the opposite of it's actually the same as the Trout thing. Like, you want to see him play every single game because he is the best. You want to see that. And I'm glad that the Yankees have kind of taken some measures to protect him. He's playing a lot more center field this year, which, I mean, widely known. There's more room to roam around. There's not as many objects in your way, not any weird corners in some of these baseball parks. So keeping him healthy by a position change has been great. I think the influence of Juan Soto has really helped him out a lot. Juan Soto seems like he's been in the league for 20 years, the way he conducts himself, and he's only like 20, 26, 27, 28. Like, he's a younger guy, but clearly his influence and how he conducts his business has rubbed off on Aaron Judge in a great way.
Not to be skeptical of Juan Soto. Do we think he's 20?
I don't know. I don't care.
I don't care either. The guy can crush a baseball, but like, Miguel Tejada is also 3 or 4 years older than he said he was, and who knows how old Albert Pujols was.
He was not. He was definitely not 19 when he came into the league. There's no way.
Yeah, I don't know. We can be skeptical. That's okay. But he's really good
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, combination of those things. Just again, glad to see Judge healthy. I hope he plays 140 plus games. That would be amazing. But yeah, I hope he keeps crushing it. I mean, it's awesome to see, and he's great for the game. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's, I mean, I'm not a Yankee fan either, but again, he's the must-watch at bat, and it's kind of like, what is he doing tonight? He's the best player in baseball right now, and he's been healthy. I think last year's running into that wall kind of did him in, but yeah. And I did see him taking this. They said like this will not be for this year, but I think down the road, just because he's a bigger guy, you could see him at first base at some point. Yeah. He was taking ground balls. He has a first base glove, and some guys just take infield because they want to take infield. I think that's a real possibility. You see with Bryce Harper,
right? Yeah,
worked out just fine. He's a decent first baseman now. So
yes, I would dare say above average first baseman defensively.
I don't see Aaron Judge being put to a DH role just because I think he has a lot more athletically to give.
Yes.
But, another team that's kind of struggling right now, and I heard this from Dan Plesac on MLB Network, The Rangers are worse than the Cubs right now. They're 38-46. They're 8 games back of the division. Um, and we're seeing that with the Diamondbacks too. Just peaking at the right time. They got in the playoffs. The Rangers barely made it in the playoffs. They played a play-in. They had to do that cross-country flight back to Tampa. Maybe the Rangers aren't that good, right? Maybe they're just because they're expected to repeat because they have this talented roster. They paid a lot for it, but maybe they just played their best baseball at the right time and happened to win the World Series. They were certainly the best team in the playoffs. You couldn't deny that. Corey Seager was phenomenal, but I'm not going to call it too early and say they're not going to make the playoffs. But maybe they aren't the best team in baseball, and that was Dan Plezak's point. Is they just peaked at the perfect time. And that's a lot of what baseball is. We had that Brewers fan in front of us yesterday because they hit their 5th Grand Slam in June, which is, I don't even know what to say about it. It's just, they keep winning games. It's wild. And they seem to keep winning games by 4 runs. But I also yelled back at them. I said, don't peak in June. I know the Brewers also have a tendency to do that. They do not peak at the right time. So what's your view on the Rangers and or just that whole mantra of the time that you peak and, is that valid?
Well, I mean, getting hot at the right time is definitely a good thing. The Rangers struggles to me. I mean, the West is always wide open and Seattle's not scoring runs. And the second that the pitching hits a little bit of a hiccup and teams start to heat up a little bit, I think the gap is going to start closing. Houston's already closed the gap. They're 43-41. That didn't take long for them to do that. They're going to be getting Kyle Tucker back. But for me, the biggest thing with the Rangers is that they just haven't been healthy. They lost Josh Young right away. He was almost on his way back. He played a couple AAA games. He had a little bit of a setback on his wrist. So he's going to miss a little bit more time. Wyatt Langford missed some time. He came back, and he's doing really well recently. Evan Carter, their stud rookie from last year, is having some back issues. He's going to be out for an extended period of time. Garcia, Semien, Seager, Heim, they're all in regressions right now. I don't expect all of them to stay in a regression. You've had a pretty nice surprise in Josh Smith. He's been a really solid utility player. I think even when people start to get healthy again, he'll have a place in the lineup.
Yeah.
So
he's good at third. I was kind of looking at the other day. He's one of the few bright spots, and he's the replacement of Josh Young, so he wouldn't even been playing. So
yeah, and when these guys get back and they get healthy, he's going to have a spot. He's kind of won that. But even on the pitching end of things, they just got Scherzer back. Evaldi's missed some time. John Gray's missed some time. DeGrom's been out the whole year. They expect to see him sometime in August, possibly. So anything he can give you, I just look at their in the back half of their bullpen's been pretty solid as well. So I think that as they get healthier and start stringing together a couple series, I think they'll be right back in the push again. I went back and looked at game by game. They've had 4 losing streaks of at least 5 games, and these are not against bad teams. They're losing to Cleveland and the Twins and Seattle and Philly and Baltimore. So it's these elite of the elite teams that they're not beating and at the heart of their losing streaks. So they have an incredibly talented roster. I think as long as they either rebound or get healthy, I think they'll be right back in the middle of it. But yeah, it's kind of interesting seeing where they're at right now. But I don't expect them to stay there.
Yeah. Well, and 2 of the teams you just listed, I would argue, are teams that are probably peaking too early. I think they don't have the roster construction probably to win the whole thing, and that would be Cleveland. I don't know. They're good. They're a good built baseball team. Are they built to win the World Series? I wouldn't say yes. And then the Twins. The Twins are just playing really good baseball right now. And that might just be a sign of peaking too early. Actually, one of the Brewers fans behind us, he again, different levels of coherency. But he's like, as long as they beat the Cubs, I'm happy. And then we'll get to October and we'll lose and it's fine. But as long as we beat the Cubs, but they kind of know, you can have a fun summer and flame out in October. It happens all the time. Just with it's just fluky, right? It just you're not together at the right time. Like we thought the Phillies, surefire, gonna make the World Series. You're playing Arizona, a team you're much more talented than, and they just ran into a team that was hot. So I think it's hard to predict who's gonna be there now. I think the Rangers have the pedigree to do it. You're right; they're not out of it. The Astros, the fact they're over 500 now is phenomenal. And I kind of said at the beginning, like, I can't envision them A, selling, but B, just like rolling over and like not being able to rattle off a bunch of wins. They have too many World Series. They have too many good players. Bregman's hitting again. Like, they're just, you have that pedigree, you're going to find your way out of it. They're the same team that knows how to do it. They have really good pitching, even though Framber's not pitching well. He can pitch well at some point. I still want him in the playoffs, right? Same with Evaldi. Like, he's just a proven postseason winner. We talk about it all the time when you get to that point of the season, but you also need to get to that point of the season in order to accomplish that. So, yeah, looking at their roster, they have the team to do it, obviously, because they just did it. But it's just bizarre, again, to see these teams down. Arizona's another team. It's just, well, you can see it because they did it last year, right? They came from nowhere and did really well. Corbin Carroll's still trying to find his way back up to, well, we don't know if it's for him, right? Because he only did it for 1 year. So it's like, I don't know. Again, I'm always the proven commodities. You just don't know what these guys are going to bring year in and year out sometimes, and especially in your second year.
But even Arizona, they're not that far out of it. Like a lot of these teams aren't. There's very few teams right now where I could say, oh yeah, they have no chance. Like, you could turn it on in an instant, and it'll be interesting to see which teams do it and which teams don't.
With the expanded wild card, I would say there's only like 3 teams combined in the AL and NL that are out of it, and that would be the White Sox, Oakland always, and who else? Like, the Cubs are still in it. They're still in the thick of it. They're only a couple games out of a wild card slot. So, like, truly, there's only a few teams that are like done for the year at this point already. Just
Colorado.
Colorado. There you go. There's team number 3, one NL team. Yeah. So, those are the teams you start knocking on their door. Like, hey, you ready to get rid of those? Otherwise, you're either staying put or buying slightly. So.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Good and bad. I'll let you go.
I have
first. Go ahead.
Okay. I have 2.
Okay.
My first one, a lot of people may have seen last night, but number 2 overall prospect James Wood for the Nationals made his debut, in left field, batting. I think he hit 6 or 7. I'm pretty sure it might have been 6. Talented young man. 21 years old, 6'7", can fly, has crazy power. I think they should have given him 2 hits last night. His first hit, he hits a rocket up the middle that got past Frankie Lindor, and then later in the game, he's facing a tough lefty and Jake Diekman. Hit a chopper to the left of the mound that Diekman fielded. He beat it out, but the ball was in the dirt. They gave Diekman an error on that. But I think that Wood beat the throw, and then he cruised into second base. Just super cool to see the young talent again. Looks very poised, very, very calm. The Nationals are another team that is not out of it, and they can turn it on in an instant as well. C.J. Abrams is having an incredible year. Lane Thomas will start to come around. Meneses is starting to come around. Jared Young, I believe, is one of their outfielders. I saw him smoke a few balls last night. But yeah, it's just cool to see him up and doing well. There wasn't much more he could have done at the AAA level. He was hitting 350, had like 26 extra base hits in 50 games, walked 40 times, 10 stolen bases. Just a great talent. He was only in high school a couple of years ago. He was taken in the second round of the 2021 draft, and he was involved in the Soto trade.
I was going to say,
he was drafted by San Diego. So
that's the biggest thing for the Nationals this is the main piece in your return for Juan Soto. So the fact that he's made it to the major league level is huge, because what were we talking about on Sunday? We were talking about the Christian Yelich trade and
Yep.
how none of those guys are in baseball anymore. And Christian
Yeah.
Yelich is still in baseball and was an MVP 2018-19. You couldn't get the guy out. So when you deal huge prospects or players like Juan Soto or Christian Yelich, you need to make sure you get something. So it's great that he's at the major league level. Hopefully he does well. But this is good for the organization because you have to get the return somewhere.
Yeah. And this is less than 3 years later.
Yeah.
Wood is in the show. CJ Abrams is your starting shortstop, and Mackenzie Gore is at the top of your rotation. So that's 3 pieces that you got for Soto. And I think I don't want to say that they won the trade. Like, you never win the trade by giving up Juan Soto, but it definitely helped a lot.
Well,
they didn't lose it. I think it was a draw. I think it was a draw.
Well, because San Diego doesn't have Juan Soto anymore.
So they won that trade then.
I would say
they won the trade. Yes.
You don't have Juan Soto. You didn't pay Juan Soto because you couldn't afford it. Okay. And the Padres kind of flamed out. Actually, the Padres seem better off without Juan Soto. And not that you're a better team. I'm not saying talent-wise you're a better team, but maybe they're more congealed this year with the core that they have.
Yeah.
That it's just baseball's goofy, right? The best players don't always win. I would say the best talent doesn't always win. It's the best group of talent. But yeah, the Padres last year couldn't figure it out, didn't put it together. No. So technically, with the San Diego Padres, considering they have nothing now, they won that trade.
They won the trade for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
I was looking past already. I was already looking past the Yankee trade. I mean, even the trade with the Yankees, like, the Padres have gotten a lot of really nice players and they're playing some good baseball.
Yeah.
So Juan Soto has been dealt for quite a bit of good talent, serviceable talent, guys who are contributing to winning baseball teams for sure.
Well, it's all about your needs in the moment, right? And the Yankees, they decided they needed another player, and he's playing really well for them. Now you look at their roster, and it's like, hey, they probably need some more starting pitching. But it's all about your value in the present day, and prospects are only as good as the time you're willing to wait on them.
Yep.
When the Cubs traded, Gleyber Torres and whoever else for Aroldis Chapman, that filled the need. They needed that at the moment. You can't think about what they're going to be, and now you can say Gleyber Torres wasn't worth it, whatever it is. When they traded for Jose Quintana, and they gave up Eloy, and they go, oh, the White Sox won that trade, and Dylan Cease. Well, guess what? Dylan Cease isn't there anymore, and Eloy can't stay healthy.
Doesn't play. No.
Who won that trade? Nobody, because neither team has anything to show for it, but the Cubs at the time needed a starter. So it's all about what you need in that moment. You're going for it, whatever. But
yeah. Second good, quick good. You just dropped his name a couple minutes ago. Jose Iglesias being back in Major League Baseball,
so good,
doing very well for the Mets. Playing second, some short, and some third, hitting 400 going into tonight in 20 games. I have always been one of the biggest fans of Jose Iglesias ever since his Red Sox days. An absolute wizard with the glove. The biggest knock on him, and I have no idea why, was that he couldn't hit. And the guy owns a 280 career batting average. He has made an all-star team. He's been on very good teams as well. He played in Detroit. He played in Cincinnati. He played for the Angels for a season. He played in Colorado and Baltimore. He did not have a major league game last year, and it just blows me away. He did spend some time in the minor leagues with San Diego, and ultimately ended up to opt out and become a free agent. But that guy is such an asset. He's better than, I would say, most middle infielders on most rosters. I just don't know where the talent, the grading scale, I don't know what people see or don't see, but Jose Iglesias passes the test every single time, and he is just a wizard on the defensive end with the glove.
I never understood why they said he couldn't hit. He's always hit for a really decent average. It kind of, reminds me of when the Cubs let go of Kyle Schwarber, and then 5 years later, hitting low 200 but with 40 plus homers, it's acceptable. Well, you know what? Jose Iglesias hits way better than half the major leagues just from batting average. He's on base, and he's an amazing fielder. He's Gold Glove worthy, caliber, whatever. And you know what? Last night he hit a home run, 413 feet. So
He blasted it.
Yeah, like don't tell me he can't hit. Like I'm tired of that narrative. Like I mean, we just should just have an all BCIP team of guys with above 250 averages. But like, yeah, that guy is. I mean, he's hitting 400 right now in a short sample. But still, you tell me any team couldn't use that. He can play third base. He can play shortstop. He can play second. Like he could DH at this point because he's hitting 400. Like the Cubs need a third baseman, don't they? This guy's just sitting out there for free. Probably pay him league minimum or whatever the veteran minimum salary is.
And he's a guy who I've always wanted. Like I have never understood why the Cubs wouldn't go after a guy like that. And he just solves a lot of issues that they have. And he's a professional.
Yep.
He played like 120 games with Colorado in 2022, and he hit 292.
Yeah,
and he didn't have a contract the next year. Like I don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yep, I don't care about exit velo. I know they're flashing on the screen all day on Sunday, and it's like, it does not matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your launch angle is. I'm sorry if it's like they pop the ball up and it goes nowhere. I don't care what your launch angle is.
I like seeing what you should look at is the spray chart and all the red that there is and where they're hitting it. How about that? I like that.
Yeah, that was a good feature. Like highlight that a little more. Like, are you hitting it all around the ballpark? Or are you like Dansby Swanson, who hits it to shortstop every single time?
Right, rolled over.
They should have had a double red for a double play, but
yeah.
He's
a freaking fruit roll up.
My good is not the Dansby Swanson spray chart. Paul Skeens again. Again, I'm a big prove it kind of guy. I don't like phenom prospects, but we are exiting that stage with Paul Skeens. He's 4-0, 2.06 ERA, sorry, 52 innings. He's just, again, that must-watch pitcher. You know, they have over-unders on, is he going to throw 100 miles per hour on the first pitch? Probably. I would take that over. But the only concern I have with Paul Skeens, because he's been phenomenal, is how many innings is he going to throw this year? Are the Pirates going to be in it where it matters? I don't know. But I feel like anytime you have a must-watch starter like that, especially at his age, it's just so much fun to watch. I hope he doesn't have Tommy John. It looks like he's doing the arm work and physically preparing his body for what he's about to do. So good for him. He definitely has the frame for it. He's a big guy. He's not doesn't look like he's overthrowing. It looks like he's just throwing how he's, trained his body to throw. So it's cool to see. The Pirates have a bunch of, we've been through the Pirates plenty of times, but just that he's continued to do it. If you're not watching Paul Skeens pitch, you should, because he's doing it versus the best teams. So that's definitely, again, not the Dansby Swanson spray chart. It is Paul Skeens for me this week.
Don't be surprised if you end up with a package on your doorstep and it's a black Paul Skeens Pirate jersey with the pirate right here, if I can find it.
I don't want a Pirates jersey. No, I don't.
Well, you might get one.
I don't need
Brandon,
t-shirts.
You being excited about a prospect is like a win for me.
I can't wear a Pirates jersey, but I would wear a t-shirt. I have plenty of t-shirts. So no.
You wouldn't wear a Paul Skeens jersey?
I don't know. Do I need
I don't know, man. If it ends up on your doorstep, it ends up on your doorstep.
We are at t-shirt level right now, okay? I'm not that committed to this, but I'm paying attention to when he pitches, and I'm at least looking at the box score and seeing how many Ks he has, because that's kind of where he's at. But yeah,
it's exciting. It's great. I love it.
A+. But again, because his second start versus the Cubs, I'm like, let's see, he might get rocked. Like that's kind of what I was going on. But like shutting down the Cubs is not a feat. Don't use that as your measuring stick.
Not anymore.
Don't use that as your measuring stick. But he's done it versus everybody, and he can let up a homer to Ohtani and kind of shake it off, and that's cool. Because everyone does. Everyone lets up a homer to Ohtani.
Right. I mean, he's a hard guy to keep in the ballpark.
Yes. Yeah. The White Sox found out the hard way. I think he let off like all 3 games with a home run. So he started down.
Yeah, well, that's a good leadoff hitter. I like the.
That's a
I
good
think who was it? Who were we talking to? Someone said I like the power leadoff guy. Ryan Vino said that. Ryan Vino picked Kyle Schwarber as his left fielder. He likes the power leadoff guy. I like the power leadoff guy too.
To be fair, Theo was onto that, and they tried it. They just couldn't stick with it long. Again, if you'd have waited like 4 or 5 more years, I think.
Right.
But there's not that much time in baseball to wait. They just didn't see enough to keep with it. So Kyle's embraced it. But yeah, the power leadoff hitter it's pretty damning, because when you start off the game with a home run, that's a blow to the ego.
That's like a knock to the Nuggets, dude.
You would think that would spark an offense, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Like, especially on maybe the second pitch of the game, it would just like
you're a pitcher. Yeah. You're a pitcher, and the guy just ambushes you, just knocks you right in the nuggets, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, but that doesn't always happen, because apparently you just sputter the rest of the game.
Yes.
But, yeah, personal problems. That's part of the bad. Yeah.
Right. My bad, and it's not a performance thing. It's more of an injury type deal. Phillies were playing really good baseball, and Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper were killing the ball. Both are on the IL right now.
Short term.
Schwarb's with a groin, and Harper came up lane with a hamstring. Both are mild. Both were absolutely killing the ball. Bryce was hitting about 350. Kyle was hitting about 280. Both of them had about double-digit home runs, about 30-plus RBIs each. Harper had 40 RBIs, and Schwarbs had 32 RBIs in May and June. So both killing the ball. Right as they got Trey Turner back, too, they were finally a complete lineup. Those guys will be back. But there are rumors that they will probably attack the market and go after some offense, too, even though they're in first place. They just want to keep separating themselves from the Braves, because you never know when they'll come surging back again. They're there, but just sucks that we don't get to watch Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper play for a little bit. But that's really my only bad at this point. We had a lot of bad at the beginning of the show, so I wanted to keep it lighter on the back half.
Oh, that's okay. I got plenty to mop up here. I have two. One is we had to, someone had to pick up the torch for Angel Hernandez, and that man we could have guessed it, is CB Buckner. He had 22 missed calls in a game last week. Like balls, strikes, out of the zone, in the zone. He's just ringing guys up left and right. Balls 3-4 inches outside the plate. Now, I have seen the weekly breakdown of the egregious calls outside the zone. They kind of go from closest to widest out. Nothing is really more than 4 or 5 inches off the plate. That's a lot, right? That's two baseballs off the plate.
That's like Maddox in his prime, what you're getting.
Yeah, and the ball's not moving that much. So
no,
unless it's that guy for Seattle with the slider thing, the reliever. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Matt Brash.
Yes, yeah.
He's out for a long time, but he had a nasty slider.
Yeah,
he's
got the best slider in the game, but he was not pitching the other night when CB Buckner missed 22 calls.
No.
Yeah. So the new face of the automated strike zone can be CB Buckner.
CB, yeah.
I don't know why.
Rest easy, Angel. He's coming for you.
Yeah. Well, it just allows us to focus on the other bad umpires that are out there,
right? Like
Laz Diaz, and okay. But 22 missed calls, not acceptable. Again, here we are, still mired in that. The other one is Miguel Amaya, very bad. 189 right now, batting average. Again, catching isn't always about hitting, but got to hit something, right? 2 homers, 15 RBIs, 513 OPS. Defensively, 6 errors. I think 5 of those are catcher's interference. Get out of the batter's box. I don't know if I've ever seen this many catcher's interference. Honestly, you forget it's a rule until it happens, and you're like, oh yeah, you can't hit the catcher's glove with your bat, otherwise you get first base. It's unfathomable that it happens once. And I think it's happened to me. I've seen it happen to him multiple times. Once it was twice in one game. Get out of the bat. I don't know what you're doing that close to the hitter. I don't get it. It's not JD Martinez with the longest swing in baseball, although one of them was. But that's why Wilson Contreras got his arm shattered in 2 places because of the longest swing. But you have no business being that close to the batter. That's a side note. 52 attempts, stolen bases on him, 6 caught stealing. Run on the Cubs. Just run. They're asking for it. He is the 67th ranked catcher in baseball. That's impossible. That's actually impossible to be a major league catcher and be ranked 67th and still be on the roster. Teams carry 2 catchers. Basic math, 30 teams, 60 catchers. You're 67. Is there nobody? That means you're worse than Nito, who just got cut by the Mets, right? Like, I don't know his defensive metrics. I have not pulled them, but like, there's nobody worse. His pop time's bad. It's just, it blows my mind that he is still catching games. He's a prospect, right? Send him down to AAA. Have him work on his throws a little more. Have him get higher velocity to second base. I don't know what it is. Teams know they can run on the Cubs. They were doing it with Yan Gomes too. Yan Gomes wasn't very sound defensively in that department either, throwing guys out. We've known that for 3 years. He's no longer here.
Yeah. Well, I think we said it last year that Amaya just needed to get a chance. Like, he needs consistent at bats. He needs to be in the lineup every day. He needs to not just be like, oh, I'm this guy's catcher. He needs to be given the chance to see if he could do it or he can't do it. This is the chance. He can't do it.
Yeah. And the hitting aside, it's fine. Again, if you're a good defensive catcher, you can hide a catcher. Martín Maldonado has had a job for a long time, and the Astros have won World Series. We've discussed him and why teams sign him other than the Astros defies logic. But he's not a good enough catcher for the major league level, despite the hitting. The hitting is brutal. But if you're a good hitting catcher, William Contreras, you can be a catcher. You don't. It doesn't matter what you do. And he's got a strong arm. Is he the best framer? Is he the best ball blocker? No. But like, if you can get the ball down to second base and you can hit well, you'll stick around. Gary Sanchez has stuck around because he can hit, not because he's a good catcher. He's doing neither. So why, why are you still on, the major league roster? If guys know they can run all day on your catcher, that defeats the purpose of having one, right? So I know stolen bases are up because, the bases are bigger and guys are just faster now. But, like, that doesn't excuse that. I feel like this is a bad trend. And a lot of it is contributed by the Cubs catching. And it's you got to do something. There's a lot of teams out there that, aren't going to be competing, go after their catchers. The Rockies have 2 good catchers. Yeah,
Jacob Stallings and Diaz, man. I mean, those guys are both solid. Take one of them. I would take Jacob Stallings. Stallings is a very good defensive catcher.
And we know,
he's hitting.
We know him from the Pirates. Like, he stuck around with the Pirates for a long time because of his defensive prowess. And now you're right, now he's hitting a little bit. That's a bonus, right? We always thought that with catchers. If they can hit a little bit, it's a bonus. Well, when you have neither, it's just...
Right.
It's bad. And I'm going to call it out because that's what it is. So, Miguel Amaya, I don't know. Losing my faith, Jed. I don't know. If these are your prospects and they come up and this is what they do, it's not pretty. And it just, it stinks. But
well, Moises Ballesteros, he's a first baseman / catcher in the Cubs system. He's one of their top prospects. He's a top 100 prospect in baseball, I think. He's definitely one of their top prospects, though. He's doing really well at AAA, so maybe you bring him up. But I know he's not catching all the time, so I don't know if the catching is really going to be something that he helps with. Hey. But yeah, get something. They have to get something.
If he has a live arm, go for it, and just don't stand in the right-handed batter's box, and you're good. Right? Yeah, because those are free bases.
I miss Victor Caratini. That's who I miss.
I don't know where he's at. Last year he was with the Brewers. I don't know where he ended up.
I don't know if he's with Atlanta. He's with the team, though.
He was catcher, but like
he was a good defensive catcher.
That was
he
what
could
we
hit.
Just had. We had a surplus of catchers,
right?
And now we have nothing. It just is bizarre. I thought going into this year, again, we applauded Yan Gomes last year because it's like, oh, he's putting,
he did well. He had a good year.
Back in a bottle. He found the magic again. Well, the magic wore off and age caught up and whatever it is. Like, he's still a good hitter, but he just wasn't finding holes. Okay, well, that runs over. But going into this year with him as your main starting option just felt weird. So they didn't really address that position. There's a lot of good catchers out there. Tucker Barnhart, you're not missing anything with. He's hitting 170 for the Diamondbacks, but he's a good defensive catcher, right? He's
He is.
he's a Gold Glover.
Right.
So you can deal with a guy like that. Like Moreno's out for them, so you can handle it. But
Yep.
yeah. All right. Well, let's finish with one last thing. I was kind of thinking about this as we were going. So again, we're approaching the All-Star break. Who is your lone? Just if you have one All-Star, I guess it'd be your first half MVP. However you want to think about it. Who is your All-Star for the first half?
All-star for the first half is Gunnar Henderson. Um, I love the way that he's playing on both sides of the ball. He is just rocking out. He is the leadoff hitter for one of the most explosive offenses in baseball. He just gets the job done. He is unfazed by the fact that the number one prospect in baseball also plays the same position. He's just out there and he's getting it. He's 22. He's in the home run derby. Definitely going to be the starting shortstop for the AL. Doing all the right things and making the most noise on that amazing Baltimore offense and Baltimore team in general. Big fan of Gunnar. Glad he's doing well. Glad he's building on a strong rookie campaign. No sophomore slump for him.
Yeah, that was my selection as well. But close runner up for me, just based on again this youthful movement in Baltimore, is Adley Rutschman. Out of the catcher spot, anytime you DH your catcher, but also as a plus defender, he was on that crazy home run streak. I guess we could our first half team MVP award then would go to Baltimore. But you could really select any of those guys off that roster. But I 100% agree with Gunnar Henderson as well. Like, to have Jackson Holliday come up and him really not blink. And again, Jackson Holliday didn't perform and whatever, but he is a shortstop per se. Yeah. We'll see where he plays when he comes up. But Gunnar Henderson is a 22-year-old major league shortstop who's playing phenomenally on the best team in baseball. So yeah, I guess we like Baltimore. There you go.
Baltimore's great. I mean, I watched. I think Cleveland ended up winning the series, but watching those two teams play against each other was a blast. I mean, Baltimore's just so fun. I mean, like Rushman and Mountcastle and O'Hearn and Mullins and Santander and Gunnar and Jordan Westberg. Like they just have Austin Hayes. Like they just have talent everywhere, and they're pitching pretty well too. Corbin's picking up right where he left off, doing great. Grayson Rodriguez is having a really nice season. Sucks that they lost Bradish for the year, but I expect them to go after an arm. Maybe Tyone will end up there. Maybe they'll try to pry away a couple of those prospects like Heston Kjerstad or Kobe Mayo or Kyle Stowers. Maybe the Cubs could trade Tyone and get some of those guys.
Corbin Burns is pitching phenomenally. He's 2.20 ERA. He gives you at least 7 innings. I think the Brewers are going to sorely miss him. I know the knock on him was the postseason pitching, but the Brewers just haven't performed in the postseason. It's not his fault. You know, he is having another stellar season and just pitching very consistently. So he's addressed that need. But I agree. They're probably going to go for an arm. They may end up with the Mason Miller sweepstakes as well. Like,
Craig's starting to pitch better though, and I mean, add another guy. Why not?
Volatile bullpens need more guys. I mean, I'll go out on a limb. I will say, if you're acquiring Mason Miller, don't expect him to close Game 7 of the World Series, because you don't go from pitching in Oakland to pitching in the World Series.
No.
I think nerves come into play. I think control comes into play. You throw him in a bullpen with established guys like Craig Kimbrell, you can do a lot of damage. If you expect him to win you the whole thing, that's tough, right? That's a hard thing to just switch on. So, yeah, absolutely. And I think he will be the lone Oakland A at the All-Star game, too. But
probably.
Absolutely.
Probably.
All right,
Rook's kind of dropped off.
Yeah, a little bit. All right, well, until the next time, hopefully the Cubs do something. I doubt it. Maybe they'll sell something. Maybe Ian Happ will go away. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. We'll just hope for the best. They were listing some guys that they can move. Patrick Wisdom, but you're not going to get a bag of balls. The Brewers, there's another funny side note, the Brewers paid $1 for Dallas Keuchel So maybe they
Yeah.
get a deal like that, or
Yeah.
maybe they'll send over a bag of hot dogs or something. I have no idea.
Right.
But drop them from the roof at Wrigley. But,
Yes.
all right. Well, until next time, Boots Go in Pairs. Take it easy, guys.
Peace.